So how did your family then mesh with the village of Moscow? Was there a certain perception of...
We were always looked at like we had money, but we didn't.
Right.
Okay? All the time when I was growing up, we didn't have any money. When I went to school up in the village in Stowe, these kids up there were all doing stuff that my folks couldn't afford that I could do. So I didn't do them. You know, the kids would be brought back and forth to the things up there to the school, and if I had to do something, if I had to stay for basketball practice, I had to find my way home. I either had to walk or get a ride with somebody. In the summer, when I was playing baseball, I had to ride my bicycle back and forth. You didn't get carted back and forth. You wanted to go bad enough, you found a way to get there, but...
How did you get to school then in the morning? You always went to school in Stowe.
No, I went to school in that little schoolhouse on the corner.
So how many years did you attend school there?
6 years.
You went for 6 years to the Moscow schoolhouse?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. I haven't talked to anyone who went to school there.
That was an interesting place. Evelyn Clark was the teacher there. Lived up on Shaw Hill. Her husband worked at the mill. And I went there from first grade to sixth grade. And obviously there was 6 grades in that one building. Probably learned more in that little schoolhouse than I ever did anywhere else I went. For one reason, you couldn't get away with a thing in there because Evelyn would take a ruler to you. And, of course, you can't do that anymore.
Would she whack you on the hand?
Oh, yeah.
The leg? The hand?
Yeah.
Did you have siblings who would have attended school there too?
Sister.
A sister, older or younger?
Younger.
And what's her name?
Susan. She owns a Bear Pond bookstore.
So Susan would have been in the school with you too. And cousins, tons of cousins.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some of them were old enough so they'd already gone to the village, because after the 6th grade, you went up there. I went to the village the first year they built the new graded school. Well, which is the graded school now, the one out back there. But it only had just that long thing. There was nothing else there. And I know what they call Old Yeller. That's where I went to high school. Was in where the art play.
So were you the last graduating class from the Moscow schoolhouse then?
Boy, I can't remember. I don't remember when they closed that school down. I don't remember. I would imagine probably they closed it down when they opened that new school.
So do you recall how many students would have been in a class at the schoolhouse?
I don't know. I got pictures somewhere of us all standing in front of the 10, 20, maybe 30 kids.
So how did that work for Miss Evelyn then, who was teaching 20 to 30 kids, all different ages, 1st through 6th grade? How did she manage the lessons? How did that work? What are your memories?
Well, there was kind of a place up front where she had a desk of hers, and then she'd had a row of chairs up there, and whichever class she was teaching, they came up front and sat with her. You got to listen, whether you were in the 1st grade or the 6th grade, to everything that was going on there, see? So it kind of gave you a jump start on what was going on, see? So some kids really took off if they were into learning, because there was a lot to be learned for a 1st grader listening to her teach a 6th grade class.
So what were the rest of the students doing at that time?
Sitting back in our seats, supposedly being quiet.
Doing work or just listening?
Yeah, I would assume we had something we were supposed to be doing. I would imagine she gave each one a project to be working on of some kind. I can't remember for sure because, to tell you the truth, I didn't pay attention in school good enough to remember that.
What about lunch? Did you go home for lunch?
We brought our lunch.
And you ate there at your desks?
Yep, I always had a little dinner pail. And I remember the bathroom. I was scared to death of it.
Why?
It had a big chemical toilet with a big, huge, dark hole down in the bottom. I don't know if there was any bottom to it or not. But I always figured something was going to jump up out of there and get me.
Was it an outhouse or was it attached to the building?
It was attached to the building.
Did you have to go outside to get to it?
No, it was it was just like walking into a bathroom, only it had this big, dark, deep hole in it.
So do you have certain chores or responsibilities around the school itself?
I don't remember that we did. I remember going out and playing kickball at recess and watching the water come over the road when the floods come up in the spring. I don't remember Then there was a stage in there and a wall that folded out. So, they used to have their Christmas programs and Halloween, dunking for apples. You ever dunk for apples? Well, that was a big thing back when I was a kid, dunking for apples.
Was that part of a Halloween
Yeah.
festival of sorts?
But there was always, Christmas, all the holidays, there was always something that,
What was the specific program? Was it a pageant?
I assume it probably was. I don't remember.
You don't remember taking part in it?
Oh, I probably did because I think everybody had to. I mean, it was one of those things where you didn't have much of any choice when there's only that few kids in there. What else do I remember about that school? Then it was a church on Sunday. There was some people there that had a little church service in there.
Do you know who the minister would have been?
They took turns. One of the guys that worked at the mill for years, and one of the Charlie Douglas, he was kind of a preacher type thing, and he used to do a lot of those. I went to Sunday school there, so
What do you remember about Sunday school?
hated it. That's the main thing I remember about it. I remember pasting all these little figure things in these books and stuff, but I don't really.
Did most of the kids go to Sunday school?
A lot of them did. You see, that was the only way the mothers back then had to get a few minutes without the kids around, was to send them to Bible school or something.
Now, was there a vacation Bible school there in the summer?
I don't remember. If there was, I wouldn't have gone to it because then I could get outside and do things. I did a lot of fishing and hunting and that kind of stuff. Everybody back then, that's the way we grew up.
Well, hunting's been more in your life than just a pastime. Your career as a taxidermist probably took root in those early childhood days, right?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a taxidermist ever since I was a little boy. And
Why is that?
I don't know, it was just something about it just fascinated me.
Was there a taxidermist in Moscow or in Stowe at the time?
He was all the way up here in Glover.
That was the nearest taxidermist?
That was the nearest taxidermist. And my father and mother, most of my high school years, and had a summer place on Lake Parker in Glover. So I spent a lot of time up here with my dad and mother. So I had fished and hunted, all these ponds and stuff as I was growing up. But there was a taxidermist right there in Glover. And every time I came up, I always ended up down there. And this old guy thought he had secrets that nobody else knew. So he would never tell me anything. I asked him questions, but he would never tell me anything. So eventually I learned it on my own.
And how did you learn it on your own?
Well, I started out, I got some information out of the sports magazine there, Field and Stream, on the Northwestern School of Taxidermy. And it really was absolutely stupid. It was, well, not the right way to be doing a lot of stuff. But anyway, that's how I got started doing it. And then let me think, I got some other books, and which were better, and I started learning. And then after Linda and I were married, she comes from New York State, and I was over there to her folks, and I saw this poster for a taxidermist association was having a competition and seminars and that kind of stuff. So I went to it, and that's when it hooked me. So I started going over. The next year I took a deer head over there, and I won a ribbon. And then the next year I went and I won the whole thing. And so then I decided we were going to go to the Nationals, which was in Pennsylvania. So I went down there, but I didn't pan out quite so good with the big boys. And so then I went to Iowa and took lessons from a guy out there. Went to school with him for a while out there. So then I came on, and from there I went on to fame and fortune.
Now, what year was that you would have started your own taxidermy business?
Oh, boy, let me think. I started that when the house burned, 10, 20. Boy, it don't seem possible, but it could have been about 30 years ago, maybe. Because I was doing it up in Nebraska Valley when we lived up there. Then when the house burned.
Now, what house burned?
Well, when I was in the construction business, Linda when I married Linda, she was living in the trailer park up by Christine Gagne's. And then I built a new house, and we moved into that. And we lived there for 10 years or so.
Where was this house?
Do you know where the Del Montes live by any chance? Or do you know where Christine Gagne lives?
I don't. What road?
Nebraska Valley Road. You know where that little red schoolhouse
Yes,
is? It's
I
beside
do.
the road. Then the next place there's a farmhouse and a barn on the other side of the road. Right in back of that house, you can't really see it from the road now because it's all grown up to Robert Morgan lived in. He's the one that bought it off of me. There wasn't anything left there except the building where I had my taxidermy business. And it's right there. Anyway, that's where we were living when the house burned. So then we bought my mother's. My mother was, she wasn't living there at that point. She was living up here in Orleans. And we bought the house from my mother.
Your parents separated at some point.
No, my father was dead. So we moved in down there. We renovated the whole place and changed it all over. Then
Which is Stowe Kennel Care.
then I added raised the roof up on the garage and put an addition on the back of it, and I had the shop upstairs and downstairs, and so that's where I was doing my taxidermy work until I got so I couldn't do it anymore, and so then I couldn't stand not doing something, because up until now I've always been one of those guys that couldn't sit still. I had to be working, so I started that doggy business, and that took off like a house of fire. I couldn't believe it. Easiest way I ever made money my whole life. So, and it's still going good. I guess she's doing well there. So, because we like dogs, as you can tell, and so that's the way so now I've ended up here in Morgan. Somebody said, why did you move up there? I said, I wanted to go to Vermont. And they said, well, you are in Vermont. You were in Vermont. And I said, no, I used to be in Vermont. The way it used to be, it was in Vermont, and now it's not. So I had to go back.
Now tell me about then, because you lived in Stowe for...
I'll tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to really live anywhere else while my kids were growing up and stuff, because Stowe had everything that, the kids needed, and it was a good jobs there. I made a lot of money there, and, Linda worked at the school, and so, it's a great place to grow up. However, I liked it a lot better in the 70s than I do now. There's nothing there now that excites me much of anything at all. So
What's missing?
People. My Vermont people, there's none left. I think you could probably count them on one hand.
When you say you're Vermont people, you mean Vermont natives.
Yeah. See, they're all like that up here. These people up here, it's almost like stepping back 25, 30 years. And the difference in the friendliness and see our neighbors come here, they stop, and I got 2 or 3 guys that stop in here just to see how I'm doing. If they can help me with anything. And, it means a lot when you're in a neighborhood that's like that. And down there, I didn't know hardly anybody. My wife did, because she worked at the school, see, and she knew everybody. I'm not saying there's not nice people there. I'm just saying they're different people. They have a different look on life. They come from a place, they were raised in a place that was completely different than the way I was raised.
How so?
Their values, how they think about their neighbor. They're used to living in a place where you don't even talk to your neighbor or don't even know your neighbor down the street. And you ask them who lives down there, they have no idea who the hell lives. Up here, everybody knows where everybody lives and who lives there and everything. You can't even leave your car in the driveway overnight without somebody knowing it up here. So, it's just a different people. They seem to, and I don't know, I didn't seem to be able to trust a lot of them very good. They'd stiff me and they wouldn't pay me, and, all that kind of stuff. And it was very aggravating sometimes to, can give a person a bad attitude about things. But you get that, some of that wherever you go, I suppose. But I'm not going to knock Stowe down because I can't do that. I was, born and raised there, and I liked it, because back then, like I said, I couldn't go from Moscow to Stowe without waving to everybody that I met because I knew everybody. And
So as an adult, did you have time to take part in any community organizations?
I was on the fire department for 8 years, and I played on softball team. I played town baseball team. Quite a bunch of athletes in my family, especially baseball. My cousin Lester played for the Army baseball team. They didn't even eat. That's all he did when he went in the Army, was play baseball. My uncle tried out for the Cardinals, I think it was, and almost made it. My father was quite a ball player. I was the shortstop for the high school basketball team or baseball team, and I was only in junior high, and I wasn't even supposed to be playing on that team. And I played on the first Little League baseball team that they ever had in Stowe. And we went on to I went to the All-Star team. We played, then one year Stowe went on and played, we won the thing up here, and we went on and played Connecticut and got the hell kicked out of us. Didn't go much farther than that. We're just a bunch of farm boys. But that's all we did all summer long, was play baseball.
Out in that field across from the...
Yeah, either that or up in the village. See, I used to ride, when I got older, I used to go to the village all the time. Because there was better ball field, there was more kids. But, you put your ball gloves on the handlebars on your bicycle, they stayed on there all summer long.
So you were on your own on a summer day, just basically took off?
Basically, yep. I was either fishing or playing baseball or did a lot of fishing. Us boys all fished. 4 or 5 of us that hung around together. We were always sitting on the bank of the river somewhere fishing.
Where were your favorite fishing spots?
Well, down through the back of the mill there, right in Little River, all down through there. And somewhere I got a picture of me when I was about 8 years old, maybe. I don't know if I was that old. It was in the Burlington Free Press. I'd gone out at 6 o'clock in the morning, came back at 7 o'clock in the morning with my limit the first day of trout fishing. They used to shut school down the first day of fishing.
Really?
Yep. And they used to have a fishing contest, and you bring your biggest fish in, and you could win, they'd have reels and creels and lures and hooks and sinkers and stuff. And Alice Wilkins always used to win it.
Alice.
Yeah. But her uncle had a trout pond where he raised the fish. And it used to make me mad because she'd go over there and she'd catch one of those stock fish and she'd bring it in and win the thing.
So who was orchestrating the contest?
I think the school did. I can't remember that for sure. But
So what about winters? What did you do before and after school?
basketball, played basketball. That I wasn't terribly good at because I wasn't tall enough and couldn't jump. And but I played. I played on the first team. And but I wasn't very good. We didn't have any hockey then. We didn't have a hockey rink. We used to go skating when I was young on the river. We'd scrape the snow off the ice on the river, and then we'd go break a bunch of brush and build a fire. We'd skate at night, have a fire on the ice.
What part of the river?
Right there on Little River, right there in Moscow, right by right across from the school.
That's really shallow right there and wide.
Yep. We'd have a fire there. I can remember my mother and father come over and skate. My father was a good skater. And
So you said that you attended the Stowe Elementary School the first year it opened. What do you remember about that?
scared half to death I was. Because I didn't know what to expect, when I get up there. I got over it after a while, but I didn't know what was going to happen, We're going up to the big school. There was something like 25, 30 in my class. There was a lot of kids,
Well, did you know most of the kids from around town?
Yeah. See, I used to play summers when I went up there. I got the chance to play with a lot when I stayed with my grandparents on my mother's side at the Story Port. There, I get to be around a lot of the other kids that lived in the village there. Jimmy Walker, his father owned the IGA store, and a bunch of those Doc Rogers boys, David Bryan, Skip Bryan, a bunch of those boys. I ended up playing ball with them, a lot later on, but had a good childhood. It was a good way to grow up. How I ever made it through without any cell phones and stuff, I'll never know. But
So is there a certain milestone in town history that made an impact on your life? Any major changes in the town that affected you?
no, not really. Almost did, but I guess it isn't going to happen. They were going to take our ball field and turn it into some kind of buildings
In the center of Stowe?
right in back of the elementary school. My grandmother and grandfather gave that to the town of Stowe, that piece of property. But it was always to be used, it stated right in the deed, for supervised sports. So they were going to put some buildings on there.
Where were they going to locate the field?
They weren't going to have a field there. Well, just about every kid I ever knew grew up. That's where they learned to play baseball and soccer, field hockey, Little League, Pony League. I can remember the donkey basketball games. But it didn't happen anyway, so
Because the townspeople made a fuss about it?
no, the Adamses did. But you see, most people would never know George Adams, or probably wouldn't really care, because he didn't make an impact on their lives, and I'm not saying he should have, but the point that we were trying to get across to these people that were trying to plan something different for this was, hey, just a minute, we were here first, so let's back up and start over here a minute. We're not going to do this, because we would have taken them to court if that's what it come to, because my grandfather worked hard in life, and to give that to the town, he's a valuable piece of property, today.
What do you think your grandfather would think about Stowe today? If he were sitting here with us right now, what do you think he'd be saying about the town?
Well, he probably would be reasonably happy for the way it turned out, because he got his money back, for one thing, and enough of it so that his whole family has enjoyed it. So, there was nothing he could do about the mill. That was destined to happen, no matter what happened, see? So then why not? Somebody was saying, well, how could you move away from there after being there all those years? Well, 4 or 5 years ago, sitting in my kitchen at the table looking out the window, it looks a little different there today than it did then. That's full of houses right in front of there, right on that ball diamond that my grandfather built. Now, I don't think I could have sat there and watched that. I just couldn't have. After you grow up, and that was, for a long time, the only thing I knew in life was that mill and that land. And so it would be hard for me to watch that happen. I just had to get the hell out of there. So away I went. I in a way, I was sad that I did it, but I was kind of glad that I did it. So, but now you see, there's John is left there. Lester's still down there, and 2 of his boys.
What concerns do you have about Stowe now and in the future?
I don't think I have any. I think they've done. I think they've done an excellent job with the way it's been handled through all these years with the zoning and no signs, the billboards and all that stuff. I think they've done an excellent job, and the way they've preserved the landscape in the town, and it doesn't look like a lot of places do. You go across the Connecticut River here and go over into New Hampshire, and you'll see one hell of a difference when you get to some of the places that are some like the town of Stowe, or, there's a lot of places that don't look very good. They're, no, I think they've done well. I think they've, I did go skiing a little bit. I skied for a while, but I didn't get into that. I think mainly because, remember when you asked me about something and I told you that some of the people thought we had money, but we didn't, and that was one of the errors there. See, the other kids, a lot of them had either their parents owned a lodge or something along that line, see, and they had all the modern ski equipment and everything else, and the stuff that I had came over on the Mayflower, and it was hard for me to keep up, so I...
Did you inherit your dad's wooden skis?
Yeah. To start out with, then, I had some, but I just didn't. And the other thing was, back then, we had a choice. If we played basketball, we couldn't go skiing. We couldn't ski, the ski program.
Why? Just a
He
time?
didn't want us to break our legs and stuff.
So you chose basketball.
I did.
Are there any other changes that took place in the village that impacted your life?
Well, I think something that would impact my life is if they do something to the memorial building. I've never understood how come, and I've never been able to get anybody to answer me a straight question, is why they don't put a building up on the Mail property and have the village offices and stuff over there. All these towns up here have a small building somewhere they put up somewhere with, it would take a bigger one in Stowe, but that's where the town offices are and stuff instead of in the memorial building.
What use do you think that the memorial building should have?
Well, there's a hall upstairs in it, and before it had a town clerk's office in it ever since I can remember, but the Union Bank was in there at one time. And then there's a historical room downstairs, and then there was a jail down there because we used to lock one another in that every once in a while. And I don't know, I just hate to see the architectural design of that building changed in any way or shape or anything. They're talking, I think, about putting something down around back. I don't know. But see, my grandfather on my mother's side, there was a creamery there, just across the bridge where the Yodeler Inn is. There was a big creamery there. My grandfather used to work in there and made cheese.
Where's this again?
I don't know, maybe they don't call it the Yodeler anymore, but you go across the bridge there in the village, right at the intersection, you go across the bridge, headed up 108, and that first place right there, what's the name of that?
Stowe Inn, the white thing?
Yeah.
The Stowe Inn.
Yeah. There was that farmhouse there, and then where that hotel unit is, there's a big creamery there. And my grandmother worked in the office. My grandfather was a cheesemaker there.
This is Ellsworth?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think.
Do you remember ever visiting him there?
Yeah, I can remember because it had a really strange smell of not rancid milk, but everything was wet in there because they hosed everything down all the time, to keep things sterile because the milk would sour and it spilled on the floor and stuff. And I just remember being real loud in there too, with a lot of cans banging and clanking. But I can't think of anything that really...
Did you attend any of the old home day parades or the winter carnival?
We used to go to the carnival way back, quite a few years back, after the kids left home and we didn't go to them much anymore. No, I didn't. Linda used to go to some of that stuff. We went to the Oktoberfest. I went once, I think, and I was never one to want to be around crowds of people much anyway.
So were you involved in the Masons or?
No, I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout, actually. See, my class, Bill Kidd was in my class, that famous skier.
Yep. Do you remember him well?
Oh, yeah. He and I were good friends. Yeah.
What do you remember about him?
The one thing I remember is it was our class trip. The year we graduated, we went to New York City. And of course, the first thing all of us could think about was drinking. See, we wanted to all get drunk when we got down there because it was 18, you could drink in New York State. See. So there was a whole bunch of us in one of the rooms there, and we got to drinking and had too much. And we were doing this thing where you hold your finger on somebody's belly, and then you, like that, and then you give them a whack in the belly just to see how much they could stand to that. That sounds like a really intelligent thing to do. And I was doing it with Bill Kidd, and he decided he was going to turn just as I did it, and I hit him right in the kidneys. And that dropped him right down on the floor. That really hurt him. And I always felt really bad about that, but he should have stood up there like a man and took it.
Is there any piece of wisdom that you'd like to leave the future? Anything that you think about sometimes when you think, I just hope this, or if I could just tell young people today this, what would it be?
If they ever get anywhere near a cigarette, they might just well be shot right there on the spot, as far as I'm concerned. To tell you the disrespect, I was at a funeral this weekend. Not a funeral, a wedding. Excuse me. There's a little difference, not much. And I had to leave because it got kind of stuffy in there and I couldn't breathe too good. I kind of have to have the air circulating. I have to have it a little on the cool side, So the groom, he's walked out with me. We went out through, and it takes me a while. I get outside and I put my air pack. I have a portable one. And I put it down on the floor of the thing there, and I was standing there leaned up against the railing trying to get my wind back. And about 6 younger people come out on that porch, and they all lit up a cigarette with me standing right there. And I thought, boy, you guys don't get it at all, do you? And not only that, you're doing this right here. I mean, then I wasn't ready to, but I had to get out of there. Because if one thing I can't stand is the smell of cigarette smoke. And be very, very careful. They need to be a lot more attention spent on taking care of your health. See, nobody ever get after me about smoking. A lot of the things, But today I see the carpenters and stuff, they're wearing earplugs, they're wearing masks, we never wore that stuff. Took care, and I can't hear good out of one ear. You got to take care of your body. It's the only one you're ever going to have, So to go through, and I don't want to be a whiner, but I'm not having much fun these days because I can't do anything, So I sit around all day, and I'm not ready to do that. I didn't want to do that now, but I don't have much choice now. But I don't know. And family too. I see a lot of these people that they don't spend any time together. They don't eat together. They don't play together, and everybody's going separate ways. The woman works, the man works, and the kids get left in the middle, and they don't sit down. We always sat down at the table every night. We had supper at 5 o'clock. If you weren't there to have it, then you didn't get it. You didn't get a supper cooked for you at 10 o'clock when you came in from somewhere else, or, I'm sure if it was a purpose in it, but just being late to supper or doing something like that, no, sir. A lot of things are different today, and they're probably better than they were then, but that family thing is important, I think. You need to have that, or you're going to have problems in a lot of different ways. And so I don't know. I think your health comes first, and then your family has to be really important to have your family together and do things together. And I was probably guilty of it too, because you get wrapped up in working, because you have to make so much money these days to stay atop of things and nothing against women or anything, but the women all work today. They didn't when I was a kid. Not that it was maybe better, but it seemed like it was, because your mother was always there. Your mother was always home. And without mothers, there wouldn't be much around, It's just like the dog with her puppies, or, a deer with a fawn. It always seems to be the female that's taking care of the litter. See? I think we've gotten away from that a little bit. And I don't know if that's good or if that's bad. It don't seem like it's terribly good to me. But it gets brought on, I think, because of the need for so much money and all these gadgets and all this stuff that they've got to have somebody's got to work and get some money somewhere. It just seems like it gets out of hand, you know, after a while. But I don't know. I guess I can't think of anything else that I would. There's probably a lot of things that I could advise a kid, because it usually doesn't take me very long to get irritated when there's younger kids around, because they don't seem to mind the way they used to. And one thing is they can't discipline them anymore, and I don't know how the hell they keep law and order in the school these days. I don't think they do very good. I think things get a little out of hand. But in the language, oh man, I don't know. It's a lot different than when I grew up. But I'm not saying it was better when I grew up. But I think any older person that you talk to is probably going to have the same attitude. And you will at some point. When I was, you'll say, when I was that age, this is the way we did it. We don't do it the way you're doing it now, because it changes.
Now, you've moved up to Morgan, and you said that what you like about living up here is that it reminds you of the Vermont you knew 25 or 30 years ago. What does it take to make a healthy, thriving community where people can live happily and at peace with each other? What do you think that takes?
Well, I don't know how it comes about, but everybody knows everybody. Now, there's a guy that comes here that does odd jobs for me, and he worked for the contractor that put the house up, and he and I became friends right off quick. And through him, now if I go up to I got one of those Gator tractors that I can go up and get the mail, and I can go down to the boat, because I can't get back up the hill if I walk down there, and but I can get on the boat and everything right from the Gator. I can walk out on the. And I was mowing the lawn out here one day, and I went down over the bank there with the tractor, and it kind of got stuck a little bit. Well, this guy drives a dump truck. The first thing I knew, he was running down across the lawn here, and he could see the top of my head down there, and he thought I tipped over. So he was down in there. But from then on, he and I become real good friends. He came and got me the other night to go looking for deer, just before dark. And I couldn't believe the people that waved to him while we were just driving along the road. I mean, every truck, every car, he knows, and they all know each other. And the social gathering things that go on up here, there's all kinds of suppers and dinners, and the communities all just get together, and somebody has a problem up here, the whole town pitches in to help them. It's kind of nice.
Most people who live up here are from here.
Oh yeah, they all, they've lived here most of their life.
But that's how you would describe the Stowe that you remember?
Yeah, there was, and like I'm saying, I'm not saying anything bad about the people, because I worked for a lot of people that were awful nice people. I also worked for a lot of people that weren't nice people. And where they got the attitude that they had about how they treated other people, I have no idea, but it sure as hell wasn't the way I was brought up. And I don't know. It seems like there's more of those than there is the others. Now, I may have a bad attitude a little bit, but I don't think so. It was so easy to get to know these people up here. Now they go by and I'm out getting my mail, they toot their horn and wave, and, it's a little bit different. Like I said, I didn't know. I'd begun to know a bunch of people from the kennel when they started bringing dogs in. And there was a lot of nice people. I'm not saying there aren't. There is. But they're a different breed of people. They aren't woodchucks. See, I'm a woodchuck.
What does it mean to be a woodchuck?
Well, you got to be born and brought up there, see? I guess.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Adams.
Well, that's quite all right. I hope I didn't ruin your tape.